Alrighty, so this one's going to be really interesting because we talked about hearsay and all that by attorneys, affidavit, and all that kind of stuff, right? Uh, can't pronounce the other one, Pacalera, right? Or Pacalera or something like that. Well, anyway, let's see
Utah,
here.
New Mexico, and Arizona spoken with family.
Let's rewind that back. McNeely versus McDonald. Chancery versus Pacalera, a 1964 case, right? So a couple videos back, I showed you that, and but it was the reason why I'm doing this now is because there's actually the small section remind you. I'm just so excited when I found this to actually make a video of it because we talked about it. Well, I did. But this is actually a particular section of the case that I think that you should really hear when that the attorney actually gets called out. Can't make this up, people. So I love this, by the way. I need to come up here and get thumbs up. Okay. And total public exposure. Okay. I don't know what the other one is. T. So let's see here. Let's see what it shows. I don't know if you can read that, but there we go. Description. So I didn't give really enough on that. But sorry, I'm not a legal scholar. I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. This is just a learning video. No more, no less. Okay? It's for you guys to do your own research. Do not take it as legal advice. Why? Because I don't want to dumb myself down. I want to keep learning and not with balls and chains. All right? I don't want to be bound to the judge. I want to be able to speak on my document of how I see fit. All right. Let's go, y'all. This is too long.
Do these things or telling the truth. Did you submit an affidavit? I did not submit an affidavit, but as an officer of the court, I am just telling the court. And you made the phone call yourself? I spoke with the other assistant U.S. attorney who's been working on this case. You're not going to testify as an officer of the court. You're going to assert facts that were told to you by somebody else. I'm stating as an officer of the court, I received the marshal's investigative report. Do we have that?
Recognize this whole thing of her stuttering because she was called out on a no affidavit, right? We talked about this.
I have it. I did not submit it to the court because it's an ongoing investigation. May it please the court, my name is Carla Hodes Delore, representing the government. I'd first like to begin with the fugitive disentitlement doctrine. The government still reasserts its position that this case should be dismissed based on the fugitive disentitlement doctrine. Is the defendant in custody? No. How do we know? How do we know? Because based on the most recent, when this court issued its order to show cause as to why this appeal should be dismissed under the fugitive disentitlement doctrine, we got in contact with the marshals. Are you testifying now? I'm not testifying, but I'm saying as an officer. Would you like me to put you under oath? No, I'm not. How do I know that in fact you did the things you claim, or the people who told you these things were telling the truth? Did you submit an affidavit? I did not submit an affidavit, but as an officer of the court, I am just telling the court. You made the phone call yourself? I spoke with the other assistant U.S. attorney who's been working on this case. You're not going to testify as an officer of the court. You're going to assert facts that were were told to you by somebody else. I'm stating as an officer of the court, I received the marshal's investigative report. Do we have that? I do not. I have it. I did not submit it to the court because it's an ongoing investigation, and it's. Why be so coy? I mean, you got an ongoing investigation. It isn't exactly a red-hot investigation, it looks like. I mean, there's been inquiry made, according to the representations made. But when the court comes back specifically and wants no information on that, why be so coy about your response? I did not believe I was being coy with the response. I was summarizing what the marshals had done and that they had traveled to Utah and New Mexico and Arizona, spoken with family neighbors. Beyond that, the investigative report. You don't tell us in your statement. I mean, you don't have an affidavit. You don't explain how you have this information. You just sort of state it as a fact. How do we know? In the footnote, I stated that I wasn't submitting. I wasn't submitting the. I know you said you weren't submitting, but you weren't. You have it in front of you? I'm sorry? You have it in front of you?
I might pause there for just a second. Just a reminder, y'all. This is what they do with actually your property tax, right? The attorney's going in and representing your counties, but they're not doing any affidavits, right? So it's very important you do the affidavit for future cases because they don't have to really accept the affidavit. It's more of a deal for later and higher courts. But that being said, they're saying that you owe property tax, that attorney is. Well, who's this Mr. and Mrs. Houston County making this claim? Did you speak to Mr. or Mrs. Houston County? Right? They're not signing affidavits because they're not speaking to any man or woman. They're speaking about a corporate body.
Let me guess.
No affidavit, huh?
Apart from, so I stated in the letter brief, in footnote 1, I said, excuse me, I apologize, it's footnote 2. I stated, because this is an ongoing investigation for a fugitive, the government has summarized the marshal's efforts to locate the defendant rather than disclose the investigative report.
Don't say when you say the marshal's efforts, this is the first I've heard that there was a report. You don't tell us whether you talked to somebody or whether you talked to somebody, talked to the government. How do we know these facts? How do we know that, what if somebody along the lines misstated or lied or misremembered? How do we prove these facts?
Well,
Who do we hold responsible?
I'm sorry?
Who do we hold responsible if somewhere along the way somebody has misstated the facts?
Well, because as I'm stating, like I said, as I'm stating an officer of the court, relying on the marshal's investigative reports, I guess then I would be the one held responsible.
Where in your opinion do you refer to the investigative report?
Well, in the footnote, I'm saying I didn't disclose the investigative report, but earlier I stated what the marshals had done. I guess in the body.
Testifying now?
I'm not testifying, but I'm saying as an officer.
Would you like me to put you under oath?
No, I'm not.
Well, how do I know that in fact you did the things you claim, or the people who told you these things were telling the truth? Did you submit an affidavit?
I did not submit an affidavit, but as an officer of the court, I am just telling the court.
You made the phone call yourself?
I spoke with the other assistant U.S. attorney who's been working on this case.
You're not going to testify as an officer of the court. You're going to assert facts that were told to you by somebody else.
I'm stating as an officer of the court, I received the marshal's investigative report.
Do we have that?
I do not. I have it. I did not submit it to the court because it's an ongoing investigation, and it's.
Why be so coy? I mean, you got an ongoing investigation. It isn't exactly a red-hot investigation, it looks like. I mean, there's been inquiry made, according to the representations made. But when the court comes back specifically and wants no information on that, why be so coy about your response?
I did not believe I was being coy with the response. I was summarizing what the marshals had done and that they had traveled to Utah and New Mexico and Arizona, spoken with family neighbors. Beyond that, the investigative report...
You don't tell us in your statement. I mean, you don't have an affidavit. You don't explain how you have this information. You just sort of state it as a fact. How do we know?
In the footnote, I stated that I wasn't submitting...
And once again, we challenge that, right? So she's relying on the marshal. Where's the marshal's affidavit as well as, since she's basically testifying or making a claim for the marshal, where's her affidavit? You know, so this is the little things that they bypass that we don't catch because we don't know it.
I wasn't submitting the...
I know you said you weren't submitting, but you weren't... you have it in front of you?
I'm sorry?
You have it in front of you?
Let me get it. And apart from... So I stated...
And just so you guys know, and I'm pausing way too much, right? She's off balance because somebody called her out. I believe she knows she needed to do this affidavit thing, but because it becomes such a habit that people don't do it, she was in a state of shock. Somebody actually called her out on it.
In the letter brief, in footnote 1, I said, excuse me, I apologize, it's footnote 2. I stated, because this is an ongoing investigation for a fugitive, the government has summarized the marshal's efforts to locate the defendant rather than disclose the investigative
Don't
reports.
say when you say the marshal's effort. This is the first I've heard that there was a report. You don't tell us whether you talk to somebody or whether you talk to somebody, talks about the government. How do we know these facts? How do we know that, what if somebody along the lines misstated or lied or misremembered? How do we prove these facts?
Well,
Who do we hold responsible?
I'm sorry?
Who do we hold responsible if somewhere along the way somebody has misstated the facts?
Well, because as I'm stating, like I said, as I'm stating, an officer of the court relying on the marshal's investigative reports, I guess.
Whoa.
So overwhelmed with so many thoughts.
Okay. Because I did previous video about this, kind of kindled this a little bit, and when you decide to challenge it with the word in court, kind of get this mindset, call them out on it, right? And really the judge, in all actuality, is supposed to be stuck as well, right? Because somebody actually called it. Now, this judge would have just gone ahead and proceed forward if it was never called out, just like all these other cases, right? But because somebody called that affidavit out, the judge was basically stuck. There was no standing, right, without that affidavit. Alrighty, this will be the People News, y'all. That was an awesome video for me.